Good morning, students. This is Sivakrishna from the Department of Mechanical Engineering, TBS Institute of Technology, Kavali. Today I am going to presentation on design of bearings. So this is the Unit 3, design of machine members 2. So this is the Unit 3, design of bearings. So we can start the Unit 3. So let us start the class. So introduction. A bearing is a machine element which supports another moving machine element, so known as general. So bearing is a mechanical element supports the another moving machine element. It is known as a general. It permits a relative motion between the contact surface of the members while carrying the loads. A little consideration will show that due to the relative motion between the contact surface, a certain amount of power is wasted in overcoming frictional resistance, and if the rubbering surface are in direct contact, so there will be rapid wear. So a little consideration will show in the relation between the contact surface and the relative motion. A certain amount of power is wasted to overcome the frictional resistance by using the rubber surface in the direct contact. So in order to reduce frictional resistance and wear, in some cases, to carry away the heat generated, a layer of fluid known as lubricant may be provided. So by reducing the frictional resistance, so you can add the some lubricants, so known as fluid. So by applying the fluid, it may be frictional resistance may wear some cases, the heat is not generated may be provided. The lubrication used to separate the general and bearing is usually a mineral oil refined from petrol, but vegetable oil, silicon oils, gases, etc. are may be used. So what are the lubricants used in the general bearings are mineral oil refined from petrol, but vegetable oils, silicon oils, and greases are used for the lubrication purpose in the bearings. So next, classification of bearings. So the bearings may be classified in many ways. The following are important from the subject point of view. So what are the important points by you can discuss in the subject? So the first point is classification depending upon the direction of load to be supported. So it depending upon the direction of the load to be supported, the bearings under these groups can be classified. The bearings can be classified into two categories. The categories are radial bearing and thrust bearing. So what is radial bearing? In radial bearings, the load acts perpendicular to the direction of motion of the moving element. So as shown in the figure A, B. So we can see the figures A and B. The figure is the radial bearings. So the perpendicular distance, so the load acts in the perpendicular to the direction of motion of the moving element is called radial bearings. So we can see the figure. So the hatching lines indicate the fixed element. This is the moving element. So load is applied to the top of the element. So you can see the figure. This is the front view of the element. This is the side view of the radial bearing. So the load applied horizontally. The moving element rotates in a clockwise rotation. It will be fixed edges, fixed elements arranged to the load and moving element. It has one fixed element fixed to arranged to the radial bearings. So the load perpendicular to the direction of motion. The direction of motion is rotated with circular motion, and the load is applied to the perpendicular distance to the circular motion. This is the radial bearing. Next, coming to the thrust bearing, the in thrust bearing load acts along the axis of rotation. So it is known as thrust bearing. So as shown in the figure B, figure C. So you can see the figure. So this is the thrust bearing. So the load is applied to the direction of load acts along the axis of rotation. So axis of rotation the load is applied. So movable elements is changed to the two edges. The load and movable elements will be arranged in this. The element will be fixed to the by helping the fixed elements. The hatch lines indicate the fixed element was supporting the thrust bearing, and load and movable elements. So these two elements are will be movable. So this is the thrust bearing. So next classification. So depending upon the nature of contact. The next classification of bearing, first one is the depending upon the direction load to be supported, direction load to be supported, it will be radial bearing and a thrust bearing. And coming to the direction depending upon the nature of contact. So nature of contact will be divided into two stages. The bearing under the group is classified as sliding contact and rolling contact bearing. So nature of depending upon the nature of contact, the classification of bearing can be divided into two stages. So sliding contact bearings and rolling contact bearings. Coming to the sliding contact bearing. So in sliding contact bearings as shown in the figure here, you can see the figure. This is the sliding contact bearing. So this is one movable element and fixed element is produced in the sliding contact bearing. The sliding takes place along the surface of contact between the movable and moving element and fixed element. The sliding takes place along the surface of the contact between the moving element and fixed element. The sliding contact bearing is also known as plain bearing. So the another name of the sliding contact bearing is plain bearing. So it is the sliding contact takes place the surface contact between the movable element and the fixed element. So you can see the figure. This is the one movable element, and we can around the movable element is one fixed element is arranged. So this is the sliding contact bearing. So coming to the rolling contact bearing. In rolling contact bearing as shown in the figure B, so you can see the figure. This is the rolling contact bearing. In this rolling contact bearing, we have arranged one fixed element and a movable element. In between fixed element and movable element, it have arranged the balls or rollers. So this element is called rolling contact bearing. So as shown in the figure, a steel bars or rollers are interposted between the moving and fixed element. The balls offer rolling friction at 2 points for each ball or roller. So this is one fixed element and movable element. In between the fixed element and movable element is arranged to the balls or roller. This element is called roller contact bearing. So this is the classification of bearings. Next, types of sliding contact bearings. So what are the types in sliding contact bearings? The sliding contact bearings in which the sliding action is guided in a straight line and carrying radial loads. So as shown in the figure here, may be called slipper or guide bearings. Such type of bearings are usually found in cross section of the steam engine. So we can see the figure. This is the figure here. This is the one type of bearing is the full general bearing. In full general bearing, so a general is arranged and a bearing is fixed. In between the bearing, the general is rotated in the anti-clockwise direction. When the angle of contact of the bearing with the general is 360 degrees, so as shown in the figure here, then the bearing is called full general bearing. So you can see the figure. This is the figure is full general bearing. So this is a sliding contact bearing. The sliding action is guided in the straight line and carrying loads as shown in the figure. Next, when the angle of contact of bearing, the general is 120 degrees as shown in the figure B, this bearing is said to be a partial general bearing. So the angle of contact bearing, the angle is 120 degrees. We can see the figure. This is the partial general bearing. The angle between the partial general bearing is 120 degrees. This will rotate in anti-clockwise direction. The general is rotated in anti-clockwise direction, and the bearing is rotates in angle between the bearing is 120 degrees. So this type of bearing is called partial general bearing. This type of bearing has less friction than full general bearing, but it can use it only where the load is always in one direction. So this type of general bearings used in the less friction between the compared to less friction for the full general bearing, but it can be only used only load always in one direction. So the load will always produce in one direction. The type of load applied for the bearing by using the partial general bearing used for the one direction load applied for the bearings. The most common application of the partial general bearing is found in railroad car axles. The common application of the partial general bearings are railroad, car axles, etc. The full of partial general bearings may be called as clearance bearings. The full and partial bearing may be called as clearance bearings because the diameter of the general is less than of the bearings. When a partial general bearing has no clearance, that is the diameter of the general and the bearing are equal, then the bearing is called as fitted bearing. So as shown in the figure. So you can see the figure. So this is a fitted general bearing. The sliding contact bearing according to the thickness of the layers of the lubricant between the bearing and the general may be classified as follows. The sliding contact bearing according to the thickness of the layer then be classified for the lubrication between the classified as follows. Thick film bearings, thin film bearings, zero film bearings, and final one hydrostatic or externally pressurized lubricated bearings. So these are the four classifications for using the sliding contact bearings. So we can discuss it one by one. So first, thick film bearings. The thick film bearings are those in which the working surface are completely separated from each other by the lubricant. Such type of bearings are called as hydrostatic lubricated bearings. So coming to the thin film bearings, the working surface are completely separated from each other the lubricants. This type of bearings is known as hydrostatic lubricants of the bearings. In thin film bearings, the thin film bearings are those in which although lubricants are present, the working surface partially contact each other at least part of the time. Such type of bearings are also called as boundary lubricated bearings. So in coming to the thin film bearings, the lubrication is present at the working surface partial contact in each other at the least part of the time. This type of boundaries is used called the boundary lubricated bearings. It is called thin film lubrication. So coming to the zero film bearings, the zero film bearings are those which operate without any lubricant presence. So the zero film bearings are it can be operated, so no lubrication is added. So that lubrication is called zero film bearings. Hydrostatic or externally pressurized lubricated bearings are the hydrostatic bearings are those which can support steady load without any relative motion between the general and the bearing. This is achieved by forcing externally pressurized lubricated between the members. So this is the hydrostatic or externally pressurized lubricated bearing. Koti. In coming to the hydrostatic lubrication bearings, we have already discussed that the hydrostatic lubricated bearings, these are in thin film of the lubricated between the general and the bearing. The hydrostatic lubricated bearings are the thin film between the general and the bearing by using by using the material between the general and the bearing is called hydrostatic lubricated bearing with the thin material. A little consideration will show that when the bearing is supported with the sufficient lubricant, the pressure is built up the clearance space when the general is rotating about an axis that is eccentric with the bearing axis. The load can be supported by the fluid pressure without any axial contact between the general and bearing. The flow of the viscous fluid in a conveying channel, so known as wedge filling lubrication, or the resistance of the viscous fluid to be being squeezed out between the approaching surface is known as squeeze filling bearings. In hydrodynamic lubrication, bearings can be divided into two channels. So what are the following of the viscous fluid covering the channel is known as wedge filling lubrication. The resistance of the viscous fluid of the bearing squeezed out from the between approaching the surface is known as squeezing filling bearing lubrication. So this is the hydrodynamic lubricated bearings. Next, assumptions in hydrodynamic lubricated bearings are the following are the basic assumptions used in the theory of hydrodynamic lubricated bearings are: the lubricant obeys Newton's law of viscous flow. The pressure is assumed to be constant throughout the film thickness. The lubricant is assumed to be incompressible. The viscosity is assumed to be constant throughout the film. The flow is one directional, that is side leakage is neglected. So this is the assumptions in the hydrodynamic lubricated of the bearings. Next, what are the properties of the sliding contact bearing materials? The properties of the sliding contact bearing materials are, so we can discuss it one by one. So compressive load. So the maximum bearing pressure is considerably greater than the average pressure obtained by dividing the load to the projected area. So therefore, the bearing material should have high compressive strength to withstand this maximum pressure, so as to prevent extrusion or other permanent deformation of the bearings. So coming to the compressive strength, the maximum bearing pressure is considerably greater than the average pressure divided to the loading of the projected area. This type of bearing is called compressive strength. So next, fatigue strength. The bearing material should have sufficient fatigue strength so that it can withstand repeated loads without developing surface fatigue cracks. So it is a major important in aircraft and automobile engines. The fatigue strength, the properties of the fatigue strength is the bearing material should have sufficient fatigue strength that can withstand the repeated loads without developing the surface fatigue cracks. This type of loading strength is used in the mostly used for the aircrafts and automobile engines. Next, conformability. So it is the ability of the bearing material to accommodate shaft deflections and bearing inaccuracies by plastic deformation without excessive wear and heating. Next, embeddability. It is the ability of the bearing material to accommodate small particles of dust, grit, etc. without scoring the material of the general. So embeddability, the ability is the bearing a material accommodate or embedded small particles of the dust and grit, etc. without scrolling the metals of the bearing. Next, bondability. Many high capacity bearings are made by bonding one or more thin layers of the bearing material to a high strength steel shell. Thus, the strength of the body, that is, bondability, is an important consideration in selecting bearing material. Next, corrosion resistance. The bearing material should not corrode away under the action of lubricating oil. This property is of particular importance in internal combustion engines, where the same oil is used to lubricate the cylinder valves and bearings. In the cylinder, the lubricating oil comes into contact with the hot cylinder valve and may oxidize and collect carbon deposits from the valves. This is the corrosion resistance. The bearing metal should not corrode away from the action of lubricating oil. So by using the lubricating oil, it should not be corrosion resistant. This property is particularly important in the internal combustion engines here, where some oils is used to lubricate the cylinder valves and the bearings. The cylinder and the lubricant oil come in contact with the hot cylinder valve and may oxidize the collect carbon deposit from the valves. Next, thermal conductivity. The bearing material should be of high thermal conductivity so as to permit the rapid removal of the heat generated by friction. So the thermal conductivity is, the bearing material should be high thermal conductivity so as to permit the rapid removal of the heat generated by the friction. It is called thermal conductivity. Next, the last property, thermal expansion. The bearing material should be low coefficient of thermal expansion so that when the bearing operates over a wide range of temperature, there is no change in the clearance. So this thermal expansion, the bearing material should be this type of thermal expansion used to the low coefficient of friction in the thermal expansion. The bearing operates over a wide range of temperature under the change in the clearance. Ma! The various materials are used in the practice depending upon the requirements of the actual surface conditions. The various materials used in the thermal expansion in the practice depends upon the requirements of the actual surface conditions. The choice of the materials of any applications must represent a compromise. The following table shows the composition of the sum of the properties of some common metallic bearing materials. So we can see the table. The table shows the composition of the properties of common metallic bearing materials. So you can see the table. So the table shows the bearing material, static strength, comfortability, embeddability, anti-scrolling, corrosion resistance, thermal conductivity. So coming to the bearing material, thin base Babbitt. Thin base Babbitt material, the fatigue strength is a poor, comfortability is a good, embeddability is excellent, anti-scrolling is excellent, corrosion resistance is excellent, thermal conductivity is very poor. So coming to the another material, lead base Babbitt. Lead base Babbitt, the fatigue strength is poor or fair. Poor to fair. So the lead base and Babbitt material, the fatigue strength is poor to fair. So comfortability is good, embeddability is also good, anti-scrolling is good to excellent, So corrosion resistance is fair to good. So thermal conductivity is poor. Next material is lead bronze. So the lead bronze is fatigue strength is a fair, comfortability is poor, embeddability is poor, anti-scrolling is poor, corrosion resistance is good, thermal conductivity is poor. Next, coming to the another material, copper lead. The fatigue strength is a fair, comfortability poor, embeddability poor to fair, anti-scrolling poor to fair, corrosion resistance poor to fair, and coming to the thermal conductivity fair to good. So these are all the properties of metallic bearing materials. So coming to the another material, aluminum. So fatigue strength is a good, com comfortability poor to fair, embeddability is poor, anti-scrolling is good, corrosion resistance excellent. So thermal conductivity is fair. So coming to the another material is silver. The fatigue strength is excellent, comfortability is almost none. Next, embeddability is poor, anti-scrolling is poor, corrosion resistance is excellent, thermal conductivity is excellent. Next, coming to the bearing material, silver lead deposited, fatigue strength is excellent, comfortability excellent, embeddability poor, anti-scrolling is fair to good, corrosion resistance is excellent, thermal conductivity is excellent. So these are the properties of sliding contact bearing. So you can see the tabular column. So next, materials used for sliding contact bearings. So what are the materials used in the sliding contact bearings are? The materials commonly used for sliding contact bearing are discussed below. So you can discuss it one by one. So what are the materials used in sliding contact bearings are? The first material is Babbitt metal. Babbitt metal. The tin base and lead base Babbitts are widely used as a bearing material because they satisfy most requirements for general applications. The Babbitts are recommended where the maximum bearing pressure and projected area is not over 7 to 14 Newton per mm square. When applied in automobiles, the Babbitt is generally used as a thin layer. The layer is 0.05 mm to 0.15 mm thick, bonded to an insert or steel shell. The composition of the Babbitt materials so as follows. So we have it has followed the composition of the Babbitt materials. Tin base Babbitt. So tin is 90%, copper is 4.5%, antimony 5%, lead 0.5%. This is the tin based Babbitt composition. Next, lead based Babbitt's composition are, so lead is 84%, tin is 6%, antimony 9.5%, and finally the copper is 0.5%. So this is the lead basic Babbitt material composition. So coming to the another material, bronze. The bronze alloys of copper, tin and zinc are generally used in the form of machined bushes pressure into the shell. The bush may be in one or two pieces. The bronzes commonly used for bearing material are gunmetal and phosphor bronzes. The gunmetal, the composition is copper 88%, tin 10%, zinc 2%, is used for high grade bearing subjected to high pressures, so not more than 10 Newton per mm square of projected area and high speeds. So the gunmetal composition is copper 88%, tin 10%, 2% of zinc. So it will be used in the high graded bearing surfaces subjected to high pressure and high speeds. Next, the another composition is the phosphor bronze. So the composition of the phosphor bronze is copper 80%, tin 10%, lead 9%, and phosphorus 1%. So it is used for bearing subjected to very high pressure and speed. The pressure is not less than 14 Newton per mm square of the projected area. So coming to the phosphor branch, the combination is copper 80% and tin 10% and lead 9% and phosphorus 1%. So this will be used to the bearing pressure, a high, very high pressure and speed used for the phosphor branch. So coming to the next material, cast iron. So the cast iron bearings are usually used with steel generals. Such type of bearings are fairly successful where lubrication is adopted and the pressure is limited to 3.5 Newton per mm square and the speed is 40 meters per minute. So this is the cast iron. This cast iron bearing used for the steel general bearings and the limited pressure is 3.5 Newton per mm square and the speed 40 meters per minute. The next material is silver. The silver and silver lead bearings are mostly used in aircraft engines where the fatigue strength is the most important consideration. In coming to the final metal, non-metallic bearing. The various non-metallic bearings are made of carbon, graphite, rubber, wood and plastics. The various non-metallic bearings are carbon, graphite, rubber, wood and plastics. The carbon graphite bearings are self-lubricating, dimensionally stable over a wide range of operating conditions, chemically inert and can operate at a high temperature than the other bearings. Such type of bearings are used in food processing and other equipment where contaminated by oil or grease must be prohibited. These bearings also used in applications where the shaft speed is too low to maintain the hydraulic oil films. These are the materials used in the sliding contact bearings. So coming to the soft rubber bearings are used with water or other low viscosity lubricants, particularly where sand or other large particles are present. In addition to the high degree of embeddability and comfortability, the rubber bearings are excellent for absorbing shock loads and vibrations. The rubber bearings are used mainly on marine propeller shaft, hydraulic turbines and pumps. So coming to the shaft rubber bearings uses the compared to the other lubricants by using the soft rubber bearing. So this is used the in addition to the high degree of embeddability and compatibility, the rubber bearings excellent absorption for the shock absorptions and loads of the vibrations. So this will be used why by using the soft rubber bearings are it will be the good absorbing the shock loads and vibrations. So this type of bearings used in the marine propeller shafts and hydraulic turbines and pumps. The coming to the wood bearing, the wood bearing are used in many applications where low cost, clean lines, inattentions to lubrication and anti-squeezing are the important. The commonly used plastic materials of the bearing is nylon and Teflon. These materials have many characteristics desirable in bearing materials and both can be used dry. That is, zero filling bearings, the nylon is stronger, harder and more resistant to the abrasive wear. The most commonly used materials of the bearings are nylon and Teflon. So the nylon is stronger, harder and more resistant in the abrasive wear. The continuation of the material used in sliding contact bearing. It is used for applications in which these properties are most important. Example for elevated bearings, cams in the telephone dials, etc. The Teflon is rapidly replacing nylon as a wear surface or linear for general and other sliding bearing because of the following properties. The applications of the Teflon and nylon bearings is the most example is used in the elevator bearings and cams and telephone dials, etc. The Teflon rapidly replacing the nylon wear surface in a linear for the general of the sliding contact bearing. The following properties used for the materials used in the nylon and Teflon. It has low coefficient of friction, so about 0.04 dry as compared to 0.15 for nylon. So compare the coefficient of friction is low compared to the nylon. So in dry is 0.04 and nylon is 0.15. It can be used at high temperature up to about 350 degrees centigrade and compared to the 120 degrees centigrade for the nylon. So compared to the nylon is 120 degrees centigrade and compared to the Teflon is 350 degrees centigrade. So Teflon is a high temperature produced, it can be compared to the nylon. It is a dimensionally stable because it does not absorb moisture. And finally, it is a partially chemically inert. So these are the materials used in the sliding contact bearings. So next, lubricants. So what are the lubricants used in the bearings? So the lubricants are used in the bearings to reduce the friction between the lubricant, reduce between the rubbing surfaces and to carry away the heat generated by the friction. So it also protects the bearing against corrosion. So the lubrication is used to reduce the friction between the rubbering surface and heat generated by the friction, and finally bearing against the corrosion. So the lubrication used, all lubrications are classified the following three groups. So what are the lubrications are classified into three groups. So what are they? Liquid lubricant, solid to liquid lubricant, and finally solid lubricant. So coming to the liquid lubricant, the liquid lubricants usually used in bearings or mineral oils and synthetic oils. The mineral oils are most commonly used because of their cheapness and stability. The liquid lubricants are usually preferred where they must be retained. So coming to the semi-liquid lubricants, a grease is a semi-liquid lubricant having high viscosity that oils. The greases are employed where slow speed and heavy pressure exists and where oil dips from the lubricate, the bearing is undesirable. So coming to the solid lubricant, the solid lubricants are usually in reducing friction where oil films cannot be maintained because of the pressures or temperatures. There should be a softened than the materials bearing lubricated. A graphite is to most commonly used in the solid lubricant either alone or mixed with oil or grease. So these are the lubricants used in the bearings in liquid state and semi-liquid state and solid states. So next, the terms used in the hydrodynamic general bearings. So what are the terms used in the hydrodynamic general bearings are? A hydrodynamic general bearing as shown in the figure, you can see the figure, which is O is the center of the general bearing and O dash is the center of the bearing. So O is the center of the general bearing and O dash is the center of the bearings. So we can see the figure. This is the, you can see the figure. Figure shows the bearing and general. It has the two centers between the bearing and general. So this is the central line of contact between the two centers. So capital R is the distance, the radius between the bearing, and small r is the radius between the general. So O is the center between the general and O dash is the center of the distance, center between the bearings. Let capital D the diameter of the bearing, small d is the diameter of the general, and L is the length of the bearing. So general is rotates in anti-clockwise rotation. The following terms used in the hydrodynamic general bearing are the important from the subject point of view. So what are the point of view, subject point of view? So dimensional clearance. With the dimensional clearance, the dimensions of the bearings and the general. So what are the dimensions? The mathematically dimensional clearance is C is equal to capital D minus small d. So capital D is the diameter of the bearing. So small d is the diameter of the general. So next, radial clearance. So it is the difference between the radii and bearing and the general. So the mathematical representation of the radial clearance is C1 is equal to capital R minus small r, that is equal to capital R. So capital R means capital D minus capital D by 2, small r means small d by 2, that will be capital D minus small d by 2, that is equal to, since C is equal to capital D minus small d, so the radial clearance C1 is equal to C by 2. So next, dimensional clearance ratio. It is the ratio of the dimensional clearance to the diameter of the general. So the mathematically is represented as the dimensional clearance ratio is C by D is equal to capital D minus small d by small d. So next, eccentricity. It is the radial distance between the center O of the bearing and the distance displaced center O dash of the bearing under load. It is done by E. So eccentricity E is the radial distance between the center O of the bearing and displaced center O dash of the bearing under the load. So it is denoted by small e. Next, find fifth one, minimum oil film thickness. So it is the minimum distance between the bearing and the general under complete lubrication condition. It is denoted by H0 and occurs at the line of center as shown in the figure. Its value may be assumed as C by 4. So next, sixth term is attitude or eccentric ratio. It is the ratio of the eccentric to the radial clearance. The mathematical formula will be represented as attitude or clearance ratio eccentricity E is equal to small e by C1. Since C1 is equal to C by 2, so already seen in previous slide. So small e eccentricity E is equal to C1 minus H0 by C1, that is equal to, so cancellation is, so common to the C1 in numerator and denominator, so cancellation is C1, so 1 minus H naught by C1, that is equal to, so replacing, since C1 is equal to C by 2, replacing C1 by 2 is C by 2, so 1 minus H naught by C by 2, so you can C numerator will be denominator, 2 will be numerator, so 1 minus 2 H naught by C. So this is the attitude or eccentric ratio, eta is epsilon efficiency E is equal to 1 minus 2 H naught by C. So coming to the last hydrodynamic general bearing are terms short and long bearing. If the ratio of the length of the diameter of the general, that is L by D, is less than 1, then the bearing is said to be short bearing. On the other hand, if L by D is greater than 1, then the bearing is known as long bearing. So coming to the short and long bearings are, the ratio between the length is L by D is less than 1 is a long bearing, and the ratio between L by D is greater than 1 is long bearing. So the ratio between the less than L by D is less than 1 is a shorter bearing, and L by D is greater than 1 is a long bearing. So this is the terms used in the hydrodynamic general bearings. Thank you.